Horror. You know, horror is such a weird word, right? Horror. Are you a horror fan? If you are a horror fan and you don't know who Jeffrey Combs is, I mean, I honestly don't even know what to say to you. I really don't. I have so much to teach you. So much to teach you. But when I met him, I was like, hey, Mr. Combs, how's it going? You probably think I'm being dramatic too, and I'm really not. When you think of horror icon, what comes to mind? Most people think Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, Ghostface. Yes, those are all fabulous and wonderful horror icons. But when I decided to do a horror icon series, I thought it would be best to focus on the people, the directors, the writers, the actors, all of the people that actually put together and create these wonderful masterpieces of horror. Today, we are talking about the one, the only, the fabulous Mr. Jeffrey Combs. One of the things that I love so much about Jeffrey Combs is that his work seems to center around a lot of Lovecraftian and Edgar Allan Poe themes, which are two of my very favorite writers. If you haven't noticed, I've done readings of both on my channel here. And he seems to embody the very essence of these authors. Unfortunately, I never got the chance to see Nevermore, A Night with Edgar Allan Poe, that he was in, a play directed by Stuart Gordon, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. And in it, Jeffrey plays Edgar Allan Poe. I bet that was magical. I would have loved to see it. Something else that I always find so fascinating about Jeffrey Combs is that he works a lot with the same people. Stuart Gordon, for instance, Barbara Crampton. When you work with the same people in this industry, it usually means that you're actually a really good person to work with. You get along well, you're kind, you're not a diva on set. You spent long days on set around these people all the time. If you get a turd in that punch bowl, it is absolutely no fun, and everyone usually suffers. So that speaks volumes about his character. And I luckily had the opportunity to meet him one time at Texas Frightmare weekend, and I have nothing but fabulous things to say about him. I never get starstruck, but I have to say that Jeffrey Combs makes my heart go pitter-patter a little bit, and I was like, hey. I didn't have anything prepared. I don't think I asked a single question. I am so disappointed in myself, but no big deal. It's cool. I'm sure I didn't look like the freak that I think I did when he met me. But he was very pleasant and very kind, and he's fabulous, that's all. So is Barbara Crampton and Bruce Abbott. Which leads me to my first and probably the most well-known horror movie. Probably the most well-known horror movie that Jeffrey Combs has been in, because it is a cult classic. And that is 1985's Re-animator. Directed by Stuart Gordon and stars Jeffrey Combs, of course. We also have Barbara Crampton, Bruce Abbott, and David Gale. Reanimator is based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, Herbert West, Reanimator. It is a horror comedy. Reanimator is the movie that started my love for Jeffrey Combs. I was very young when I saw it, but I do remember watching him and thinking how cute he was. I kind of go, yeah. It's always the weirder the better for me. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's probably a deficit in my character. Jeffrey Combs plays a college kid who develops a serum, and it looks like this glowing Really cool. I think they actually used the stuff inside of glow sticks for the serum, and it totally works. It looks super cool. Anyway, it reanimates dead things, not just people. Dead tissue. Cat dead. Details later. If you know, you know. Which I'm really hoping that any horror movie fans out there have absolutely seen this film, because it's insane if you have not seen this film, because this film is... Oh, it is... Oh! And he and his roommate kind of do some experiments on it, and a professor at his college finds out about the serum, and of course he wants to take it and use it and claim it as his own, like, oh, I'm the dude that, you know, created eternal life. I'm so awesome and wonderful. And he is super creepy. And he is also very, very interested in the character played by Barbara Crampton, who is Jeffrey's... See, I should have done the character names. That would have made this easier. But, you know, I didn't write anything out about this because I'm like, I don't need to write anything about Jeffrey Combs. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm going to say, but I really don't. The professor is also very interested in Barbara Crampton's character, who is like the dean's daughter. Dude, no. Ew. Anyway, so yeah, that's the basic gist of the story, and it takes all sorts of funky, weird turns, and you have heads, and it's a good time. It is such a good time. And by the way, guess what? Re-animator is airing on Tubi for free, so you have absolutely no reason not to see it. Re-animator also spawned 2 sequels. One is 1990's Bride of Re-animator, directed by Brian Usna and starring Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott, Claude Earl Jones, and David Gale. And also 2003's Beyond Re-animator, directed by Brian Usna, starring Jeffrey Combs and Jason Barry. It is the 3rd and final installment to the series. Re-animator is clearly the best in the series. However, Bride of Re-animator and Beyond Re-animator are definitely worth checking out. And guess what? They are both streaming on Tubi right now. Check them out. Going into 1986, we have another unbelievable cult classic with Jeffrey Combs, From Beyond. Directed by Stuart Gordon, starring Barbara Crampton and Ken Foree. From Beyond is very loosely based on an H.P. Lovecraft story of the same name. I would say that From Beyond is probably the weirdest one on this list. Yeah. I mean, it's a body horror, which I love body horror. Body horror is some of my very favorite horror. And Lovecraftian films usually have some sort of body horror, which is why they're so fabulous. It is about a scientist who develops a machine called the Reanimator, which allows you to see interdimensional creatures. Seems simple enough. Jeffrey Combs plays the assistant to the scientist and turns on the machine and gets bitten by one of these creatures. The scientist ups the power on the machine to full force and gets ripped into the other dimension. His body is left behind, and so he is presumed dead, and Jeffrey Combs is blamed for the murder. And because of what he is saying, he is sent to a psychiatric facility where he gets treated by Barbara Crampton. Turns out that she gives Jeffrey Combs' character a CT scan and finds out that his pineal gland, because apparently that's where the whole thing is related to, the pineal gland. That's how you actually see these interdimensional creatures, which, cool. Yeah, totally makes sense. It does actually kind of make sense, but regardless. Anyway, so she gives him a CT scan and she finds out that his is enlarged because he was bitten by the creature, and so he's changing, you see. He's been infected. Kind of crazy. Anyway, so she believes him. She says, hey, I think he's innocent. Let's take him out of this psychiatric ward and go to the machine. And they do. Because, obviously you got to go check it out. And so, of course, they fix the machine. And, it's like, obviously that's not a good idea to fix the machine. But Barbara starts being affected by the machine. Now, I will tell you, If none of this sounds interesting to you to see the movie, fine, I get it. May not be interesting. But I can show you one image that will make it interesting enough. Thank you, Barbara Crampton. Yes. This movie is amazing. These special effects are freaking stellar. Stellar in this film. It is something you really, really, really should not miss. Lots of cool, weird body horror. Oh my God, I'm giving too much away. That's funny because it reminds me of Combs as the Andorian. That's funny. Okay. Jeffrey Combs' performance in this film is amazing. I also have to say that Barbara Crampton does a stellar job as well. And one of my very favorite scenes of Barbara Crampton's is at the very end of this film, where she has clearly been driven mad by this machine in this interdimensional world. And she's like, she's just, you know, in that manic state where she's laughing, kind of crazy, kind of wild. And I think she did a fabulous job at that. So I think this is definitely one that you should check out. And it is on Tubi right now. You can make this a Jeffrey Combs marathon, Reanimator, From Beyond, and maybe a few of the next movies I'm about to talk about. This is hopefully the perfect time to ask you to please like and subscribe to my teeny tiny little channel. It really helps, and it would be really awesome for me, and it will help me to keep creating content like this for you. Thank you. Kind of gone back and forth on some of the movies that I decided to put into this list because I didn't want an incredibly long list. I don't think you need, you know, all of the horror movies that Jeffrey Combs has been in. Although I would probably recommend watching most of them because it's Jeffrey Combs. Hello. And then we head into 1991's The Pit and the Pendulum, directed by Stuart Gordon. It stars Lance Henriksen and Rona DeRicci, and of course, Jeffrey Combs. The Pit and the Pendulum is based on a story by Edgar Allan Poe of the same name, and it has a little bit of an amalgamation of other stories like The Cask of Amontillado. It's a different feel to the other films, but I think it's very good and very worthy of a watch. Lance Henriksen is amazing. He's actually really the lead in this film. The film is set in the 1400s during the Spanish Inquisition. Is a great time in history, human history. Let me tell you what. Henriksen plays Torquemada, a Grand Inquisitor in the Inquisition. Maria, played by Rona DeRicci, speaks out against the church and their use of torture tactics, and of course that makes her quite a target. If you don't know, Torquemada is an actual character in history. He was an inquisitor during the Inquisition and apparently burned about 2,000 bodies during this time, which is crazy. Torquemada finds himself captivated by Maria. And of course, since he is such a pious man, she must be a witch, because there is no reason why this man would be attracted to this woman if she were not a witch. The rest is something you gotta watch. And don't be disappointed. There is, in fact, a pit and pendulum in this film. So you get exactly what you expect you're gonna get. And it is streaming on Tubi right now for your viewing pleasure. We head into 1993 with Necronomicon Book of the Dead. Directed by Brian Yuzna, Christoph Gans, and Shusuke Kaneko. I really hope I pronounced that right. Apologies if I did not. It also stars Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Payne, and Richard Lynch. Necronomicon Book of the Dead is based on Lovecraftian short stories. It is an anthology film with 3 short stories and a wraparound, and it stars Jeffrey Combs as H.P. Lovecraft. I just love saying that. The man himself, H.P. Lovecraft. It's so fabulous. The film kind of takes the direction of what if Lovecraft's works were not actually fiction, but based on reality, a reality that Lovecraft is living. The effects in this film are just amazing and mind-blowing. Jeffrey Combs' makeup as H.P. Lovecraft alone is really quite epic. But there are some monsters and creatures and things in this that are just stellar. The effects were supervised by the one and the only Tom Savini, who we all know. And they were created by John Carl Butchler, Christopher Nelson, and Screaming Mad George. I'm not going to get into all of the stories, especially because I cannot seem to find anywhere where you can stream this or purchase this for under $45. So unfortunately, as much as I think that this is a real gem of a film, I don't want to hype it up too much because I don't know how you're going to be able to see it. I actually would like to watch this film again, and I cannot. I guess this really signals the virtues of having physical media, doesn't it? But it's 3 stories and a wraparound, and it is fabulous. One of the things that I love about anthologies is if you don't like one segment, you can just wait, and another one will be along really quickly, and it's highly likely you'll like that one, or maybe even the next one. Then we move on to 1995's Castle Freak, directed by Stuart Gordon, starring Barbara Crampton, Jessica Dollarhide, and of course, Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs plays an alcoholic father who gets into an accident that kills his son and blinds his daughter. Needless to say, this puts quite a strain on his relationship with his wife, played by Barbara Crampton. Somehow he inherits a castle in Italy. They travel there as they're going to, sell everything in it. And what ensues is pretty crazy. There was a man living in the castle, and he escapes and starts terrorizing and murdering people. Jeffrey Combs' character turns to alcohol again and hires a prostitute, which makes his wife, so happy, just making the whole situation much worse. The interesting thing about Castle Freak is that it was filmed in Italy in a castle owned by Charles Band, and that same castle was also used in The Pit and the Pendulum. I also think actually during this time that castle was used for quite a few full moon features, probably Subspecies. I love Subspecies. I know a lot of people give me so much crap over that. I don't care. Radu is amazing. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's a pretty sad story, but I think it is a very good story. There's some cool effects, there's some wonderful acting, and I think it's a great one to see. This one is also streaming on Tubi, and if you have Shudder, you can catch it there as well. In 1996, Jeffrey Combs was in a movie that is probably one of my very favorite performances by him. It is The Frighteners, directed by Peter Jackson, starring Michael J. Fox, yes, Dee Wallace, Jake Busey, and the music is by Danny Elfman. This film has an amazing cast. And it's Peter Jackson. Before Lord of the Rings, but it's Peter Jackson and it shows. This film is phenomenal. The story is awesome. Awesome. Basically, Michael J. Fox plays an architect who gets into a car accident with his wife. Unfortunately, his wife passes away, but the accident has left him with a gift, and that gift is being able to see ghosts and spirits. He decides to... It is a comedy, okay? So this film actually gets scary. It's funny, but it gets scary. He decides to take advantage of this gift and convinces his spirit buddies to go and haunt places so that he can go and exorcise them. Makes sense. Use what you can to your advantage, right? So this movie is funny. It is quite humorous, and it seems like it's going to play out one way, and then it gets really dark. And I think that's what makes this film so effective and scary. You have Jake Busey coming in as this ghost Grim Reaper. He is spooky. He was executed years before, and now he wants to, pick up where he left off. Because Michael J. Fox can see who his future victims are going to be, of course he's going to be targeted by the FBI, and that's where Jeffrey Combs' character comes in. Jeffrey Combs plays one of the most damaged characters I have ever seen, and it is phenomenal. Frighteners is on Stars right now, or you can rent it on many of the streaming services. More recently, Jeffrey Combs has been in a new horror movie released this year. I reviewed this with Gruesome Magazine about a month ago, so you can go check that out if you'd like. The movie is called Onyx, the Fortuitous, and the Talisman of Souls. It is directed by Andrew Bowser. It stars Andrew Bowser, Olivia Taylor-Dudley, Rivka Reyes, and Terrence C. Carson. Onyx the Fortuitous is definitely a horror comedy. I would put it as comedy horror because the comedy definitely supersedes the horror, but it is still horror related. Jeffrey Combs plays Bartok the Great, a Satanist who invites 5 other very special chosen Satanists to his home so that they can do a ritual for immortal life. That part is true, and that's what it is. And that's basically the basis of the entire movie. And you know what? It doesn't sound like much, but it is really amazing. All of the characters are so well and fleshed out. It kind of feels like a Dungeons and Dragons horror Satanist group. A Dungeons and Dragons horror Satanist group. Yes, a Dungeons and Dragons horror Satanist group. That is something I never thought that I would say. Onyx the Fortuitous also has Barbara Crampton, and let me tell you, she is hilarious. And my lover. Very, very cute, very cleverly written, and very funny. This movie started as a Kickstarter, and they raised apparently plenty of money to make the movie, and they went above and beyond. I can tell you that for sure. The ghouls and the zombies and the makeup that they've done, the puppets are just mind-blowingly good. And my personal favorite scene was Jeffrey Combs doing a workout scene. It is precious. I love people that are not afraid to make fun of themselves and to be free. I think the most successful actors are the ones that are not afraid to let that freak flag fly. You know what I mean? Of course, Jeffrey Combs is in a ton of horror movies. Now, if there's one thing that I love, it's horror. It's my number one. But coming in at a close second is, in fact, sci-fi. Jeffrey Combs is not only a fabulous face for horror, he has also changed the face of sci-fi, playing 9 characters in Star Trek alone. And I love Jeffrey in all of his Star Trek ways. And also, Dr. Mordred. Did you know about Dr. Mordred? Did you know that Jeffrey Combs almost played Doctor Strange? Yes. Yeah. Charles Band was putting together a movie about Doctor Strange, but unfortunately it took longer than anticipated to create, so they lost the rights to Doctor Strange. However, since they had already completed the costumes and done so much work on it, they revamped the script, and lo and behold, you have Dr. Mordred, aka would have been Doctor Strange. It is one of Jeffrey's most precious roles, and if you would like to stream that one, it is streaming right now on Tubi for free, so no reason not to check it out. I really do hope that you check out these Jeffrey Combs films. There's plenty more I could have added to this list, but I just wanted to make a few, you know, that some of you could get started down your Jeffrey Combs journey. It is a really weird thing to do. Jeffrey Combs journey. And I hope that you have the most amazing day, my spooky darlings. Cat dead, details later. Cat dead, details later. Cat dead, details later. Anyway, what was I talking about? This is harder to do than I thought. It's hard to talk about him for some reason. Anyway, so what was I saying? So